Now we're going to take a look at setting up the electrical wiring unit. And first of all, you can see that we have the bins in the classroom that are all organized, and there's several for electrical. And I like everything to be put back in this same order and same condition, which means that all the tools are in one tote and all the electrical parts and materials are in another one. And things are actually tidied and cleaned up. It's a nice way to start out. Now there is some setup because the students all want to have tools in their hands. So we put up some little mock walls, 2x4 stud walls, that we can actually do some practice wiring before they go and wire onto the large trades units. And so they need to be put together in an L shape, and using a small block of wood with some screws, you can drive the screws in and that will hold the unit together. So with those studs, we're going to then unpack our totes. We use 12-volt light bulbs so that when we put power to these units to test, we always test with 12 volts so nobody can get electrocuted. And take out all the little totes that have the MARETs, and then you've got your light fixtures, and organizing on your bench so things are really tidy. There's a lot of small parts in electrical. We have receptacles, which are the plugs. We have light switches. And then we've got linesman pliers and needle nose pliers, and it's nice to separate them and to be able to explain them to the students. And then we have different Robertson screwdrivers, which are the square heads, and some Phillips screwdrivers and regular slotted screwdrivers. So it's a really good time to identify different tools with the students. So we're laying everything out on the bench except for the X-Acto knife. Utility or X-Acto knives, I like you to keep one on yourself in your pocket. Make sure the blade's retracted. It is usually one of the most dangerous tools in the shop. So once all the tools are laid out on your bench, then you can set up your little mock wall where students are going to get a chance to try wiring. And you're just fastening electrical boxes to the studs. Now in practice, you may find that some students are real go-getters, and you may want to ask a student to actually install an electrical box in a stud, and you can explain that they're put in before the drywall goes in. And this is so they can be placed in on the studs, and all the wiring is done prior to the drywaller coming in. So preparing the wires, you need to use the X-Acto knife, and that's you, not the students. You prepare the wires and cut off the outer coating and have it all set up for the students. And this will probably be a lot of your job during the time when the students are there, is just keeping them prepared with materials, because I do not want them using an X-Acto knife. There is some little knockouts in the bottom of brand new boxes, and you have to take a screwdriver and bend those out of the way so you can place the wire up into the box, and then you secure it and anchor it. In wiring, you always have to anchor electrical wire so it doesn't move around and chafe. That's how electrical short circuits and fires happen inside houses and walls if things aren't secured properly. So there's two wires fastened into an electrical box. At this point, we don't know what's going to be attached to them, but we're going to prepare the end of the wires by stripping the insulation off. And it's really interesting with the wire strippers because there's different grooves depending on the diameter or gauge of the wire. And so students are going to probably struggle with it a bit. And you're going to have to probably give some guidance as to which, or just to let them experience which of the grooves they are used for stripping the wires. So this is a prepped box. It's all ready to go. You could put on a light switch, you could put on a receptacle, and you could wire multiple wires together, such as often the wire comes into a box and then it continues on. So what I'm doing is I'm adding something called a pigtail, and a pigtail is a 6-inch piece of wire that is joined to two other wires that continue on, and this allows a component to be able to be disconnected without breaking the circuit. Of course, we'd always have power turned off at the breaker box when you're working on electrical at home. So notice that we turn clockwise and we snip off the end, and then I'm adding a MARET. A MARET is a plastic wire nut, they call them, and that threads onto the wires and holds them in place. And you can wiggle it and make sure that it doesn't come loose. And there should be no bare copper wire underneath the exposed below the MARET. So those pigtails are what are going to be fastened to an electrical switch or receptacle. Here we're going to a receptacle. Notice that I twisted the end to make it look like a fish hook, and that fish hook is going to hook around the terminal, and black goes to brass. And then we're going to use a Robertson screwdriver to tighten it up. Notice that direction of the tightening of the screw is it goes with trying to tighten the wire into the receptacle. So that would be something that all the students would do, is using the mock wall. And now prepping the made trade units. Prior to the students starting, you need to you disconnect any receptacles or light switches, and you need to cut off the little curly ends. You only need to take off about 1 inch each time. And then with your X-Acto knife, you can pull the wire out of the wall a bit. We purposely leave coils of wire inside because you're going to have students repeatedly going through this and cutting bits of wire. So you can just extend and pull a little bit more wire out from the wall. And then you will take your X-Acto knife and you will put the wire up against the wall. Make sure you don't have your hand or skin behind, and you're just going to score the plastic insulation. Cut it back 6 inches. Always have about 6 inches exposed, not less and not more, otherwise it gets really crowded. And then you just have that sitting in the electrical box ready for the students to strip the insulation off. And that's the preparation.